All right, so in this video, I'm gonna be covering how cold email deliverability has changed in 2024. I'm gonna go over what changes have taken place and what you need to do about these changes to make sure you continue booking meetings with cold email, of course. But yeah, I mean, this is gonna be most relevant to people in Q4 2024. Deliverability is changing on a weekly basis at this point. So, in the next few months, some of this might not be applicable, but the way I'm going to structure what you need to do is going to be practices that should pretty much be evergreen going to the future and will just pretty much always be a good practice. But of course, as things go on, there might be some new practices you might have to put in place with all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, right now at the moment, deliverability is by far the hardest it's ever been. I think we all know that, and it's probably 10x harder than it was just from the beginning of the year, and it's going to probably continue to move at this rate. So it's really a lot of cold email at this point. It's becoming a game of just being able to land in the inbox in the first place, right? Because a lot of people are getting sub 1% reply rates. They're having email accounts burn out of nowhere. Yeah, just getting flagged as spam immediately, brand new accounts. So yeah, a lot of it is becoming a master of the tech side of things and the infrastructure side of things to make sure that yeah, you're sending and actually landing in your prospect inbox. So in this video, I'm gonna be covering the top 5 practices to put into place, and you can basically just always do these practices month over month, and yeah, you should have best deliverability. But let's dive into it. All right, so the first practice we're gonna want to put in place is going to be simply just testing different infrastructures. So what I mean by this is going to be testing different email providers, testing different email sequencing tools, and then also testing different email warrant pools, right? So, because yeah, I mean, all this is going to have a different effect on your deliverability, and everyone's gonna have their own unique experiences and opinions on these three things, right? So, really, the only way you can get a real grasp of what you know is going to work best for you is by simply testing it. Like I can tell you our infrastructure, and it might not work as well for you as it does for us. But yeah, just try everything out. Try resellers, try private infrastructure, try SMTP servers if you can, and also try just good old traditional inboxes. You can test them between Google and Outlook. But yeah, I mean, just test between all these. We're looking into private warrant pools and also sending providers. So yeah, really nothing's off the table anymore. I have a ton of calls set up with all these different private infrastructure tools because I want to get insight on like, okay, I want to see and I want to test between all these tools and see what really works well for us versus just listening to someone, hearing their experience on it, and just taking them up on that. Because like, yeah, I mean, I could be talking to someone who is affiliated with them, and maybe they're making some sort of money off asking me purchasing from them or whatever. But everyone has their own motives, and also everyone just has their own unique experiences. Like for us, I mean, we use Smart Lead for the email sequencer. We use their warrant pool as well, and then for sending providers, we're using traditional or using resellers for Google and Outlook, and then we're also using private infrastructure. And the only private infrastructure we've used so far has been Superwave. It's been a good experience with all these. But yeah, I mean, this is my experience. You could test out your own. You could run the same exact infrastructure and potentially have a different experience. So you really just got to go do that, test it out for yourself, and see what works for you. Next practice, I mean, this is a no-brainer, is going to be weekly deliverability audits. So using tools like Email Guard, that's going to be a great tool. That tool basically gives you full metrics on everything for cold email in terms of deliverability. But yeah, I mean, if you're using Smartly though, they just released their own in-house deliverability tester, so that's really nice. But yeah, providers are catching on the importance of users getting a full grasp on like where the emails are landing because a lot of people are seeing really low reply rates and they're just confused because they don't actually know. They can't tell if their campaigns just suck or if they're just not even landing in the inbox in the first place. Which I can say confidently about like 60% of the time, it's not necessarily a campaign issue. It's typically a deliverability issue. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people are just giving up on Colding at this point. They're saying Colding was dead because of this, but it's because they haven't done the proper or haven't gotten the proper insight into where their emails are even landing. So, yeah, you can use tools like MailMeter, Email Guard, or you can use Smartly's integrated deliverability tester, which I just mentioned. Use on a weekly basis. But yeah, this is really non-negotiable to identifying where your accounts are landing, especially if you run a cold email agency on your like yourself. This is extremely crucial for just making sure that your clients, everything's good with your clients and all that. So yeah, weekly delivery audits are going to be crucial. Next is going to be constantly updating your inbox reserve. And what I mean by this is you want to always have a reserve of email accounts in case your current email accounts get, burned, right? So like no matter how well you follow the best sending practices to your accounts, after 3 to 6 months, they're eventually going to burn. Like no matter what. I mean, sometimes if you have a campaign that's running really strong, um, the accounts might last longer. But in 99% of cases, it's best to just like anticipate this and just expect your accounts to burn after 3 to 6 months. If you get to 6 months with email accounts nowadays without them burning, that's honestly a very good thing. That's a good inbox. But I would likely say like after 3 months, your accounts are gonna burn, and I can tell you everyone's experiencing this. So if you're experiencing this yourself, you're not alone. It's just a part of the game. But yeah, to adapt to this, you just must always have a reserve of accounts on the back end. Pretty much just warming up and not sending. That's it. So the general rule of thumb that we put in place is to create. So this is if we onboard a client, right? So let's say you're setting up your own system. What you want to do, let's say you want to send 2,000 cold emails per day, and you're sending 20 emails per inbox. So you're going to want 100 inboxes, right? That's the bare minimum inboxes you need to send 2,000 emails per day. What you want to do is multiply that number of inboxes by 1.5. So then you're in reality, you want to actually buy 150 inboxes to where you have 100 inboxes sending at one time, but then also have 50 on the back burner just in case, let's say like a couple of those start falling off. Then we can start replacing those. And then as you replace these, you want to purchase more accounts, right? On top of that to replace them. And then also on a month to month basis, you want to be adding about 20% more inboxes to the current number of inboxes you have at the moment, just to keep the reserves fresh and strong, right? So you want to be adding inboxes ahead of time before having to catch up on the fact that like all your inboxes are burnt and then you are just stuck without sending any volume and then you're just screwed, right? So yeah, just always adding. So you want to start off with 1.5x the amount of email accounts you currently have or that you need to send. And then on a month to month basis, add 20% more email accounts to the current reservoir you have. So you're just keeping everything strong. And you never end up in the issue where you're just screwed because you have no email accounts. All your accounts got burnt, and then you're waiting that you have to set the email accounts. You're waiting that 2 week warm period again, and then yeah, you're just kind of just left there, just sitting there waiting. And you obviously don't want that. You want to keep lead flow always going through. So always having a constantly updated inbox reserve is going to be crucial. Next, so this is a little bit higher level, but this is kind of like a something that we're looking to implement, and it's something that it's a table we already built out as automation within Clay. But I think this is just my theory. I think spin tax is honestly not that effective anymore. Like this isn't 100% confirmed yet. So what we're doing in place of spin tax is actually using AI to create fully text generated emails, one-on-one emails for every single prospect. The thing is though, we're going to still be using the same sort of rules of spin tax where we're using like the same overall structure of the email, the same messaging, all that stuff. But we want to have AI to basically like kind of restructure the email, have a little bit of freedom when it comes to writing the email, restructuring the sentences. Because the thing is with Spintax, what Spintax does, all it does is it switches a few words. So the word count of the email is gonna be exactly the same for a Spintax email, unless if you use Spintax where you would leave a blank space or whatever. But the overall email is basically exactly the same with Spintax. It's just words are alternated. That's the only thing. But with the AI text generated email, um, AI can actually fully rewrite this email and switch up the word count, switch up the structure of each sentence, and just like kind of keep the messaging the same and like the offer the same, all that stuff, but like rewrite the email pretty much. That's what we're having AI do. We've already kind of cracked this inside of our community at the Outbound Code. You can check it out at theoutboundcode.com. I mean, there's probably a link in the bio. But I actually just shared this template plus a video on how this works. I might create a video on this in the future, but at the moment, just keeping it the community. But this is something that we're going to implement, and then we're probably going to see a pretty significant increase in deliverability. Because there's no way, because the thing is, like, we're literally having these AI write out one-to-one emails for every single prospect. So this is just this is the next step to spin tax naturally, right? Because at this point, Google's catching on to this hey, high, low spin tax. It's just not cutting anymore, right? So this is simply the next natural progression is just having AI write one-on-one emails, just maximize the chance of not getting flagged as mass outbound, right? It's pretty hard for AI to be able to, or for Google to be able to detect one-on-one emails for every single prospect. So yeah, this is in my opinion going to be something that's going to be crucial moving forward. Um, I know there's softwares that are starting to build this out as well. Like I believe Twain.ai, they're doing something similar to this. But yeah, so trying to implement something like this, AI text generated emails versus spin tax, it's going to be crucial. And then the final point is simply this is just a simple overall um, campaign optimization point, but it's going to be just TAM narrowing and getting really strong with like ICP scoring. So what I mean by this, and so obviously TAM is total addressable market. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that our TAM is as narrow as possible when we're sending out these emails, right? Because just getting flagged, I think it's like the rule with Google at the moment is if you get marked as spam 3 times out of 1,000 emails, that account can get restricted. So we want to make sure that we're only contacting people that are relevant or are relevant to speak to in the first place. Because if we're going after, if, let's say we have an offer that's specifically for e-commerce, but we somehow reach a local business, then they're just going to mark it as a spam because obviously the email is just a mass cold email, right? Because we're not hitting the right person. So making sure that we're using ICP scoring methods instead of Clay to ensure that we have strong targeting is going to be essential to limiting spam reports for prospects. So yeah, we just want to make sure that we're actually reaching the real audience of the people that we want to go for. It's pretty much non-negotiable at this point. Um, unless you're sending tens of thousands of emails per day to where you could afford some email accounts just getting flagged and destroyed. And sure, but if you're sending like 1 to 5,000 emails per day, you really need to start dialing down on your ICP scoring and TAM narrowing, or else you're going to just get flagged by flagged as spam a lot more often, right? So yeah, I recommend using Clay. I'll probably have a referral link to Clay in the description where you can get 3,000 free Clay credits, and I'll probably post a video in the future on how you can score leads with Clay to make sure that your TAM is just pinpointed. Um, but the way you do this without Clay though is pretty much just make sure you're going really hard in the filters. So let's say you're using Apollo, making sure you're going really hard in exclusion filters, getting really specific on the industry, and you're just going through the list, each of the pages, and making sure you're canceling out all the people that wouldn't be qualified, right? That's really gonna be the best way to limit spam reports. So yeah, that's gonna be the 5 main practices that you want to put in place for to just maximize deliverability moving forward. No matter what, each of these practices is going to boost your deliverability, no matter what point we're in, and just ensure that you can continue safe sending consistently over time. Just continue booking meetings, right? So, I hope you found this useful. If you're interested in learning more from me, I have a free newsletter in my description. You sign up to that. If you're interested in working with me, I have a community, outboundcode.com. And then I also, of course, have my own outbound agency at revgrowth.ai. If you are a B2B business or SaaS, or just have any sort of B2B offer, um, yeah, you can reach out to me on there and we can potentially work together. But yeah, that's the video. We found this useful. Cheers.